heard I was going to interview you, they said, I hope you're going to put the boot in and have a go at Bertie. They blame you for what happened to the economy.
Yeah, well, I was Taoiseach at the time, and I think people will always blame the political leader. I mean, Obama's getting it in the neck. Cameron is only in a year; he's getting it in the neck. Sarkozy is getting it. Angela Merkel is getting it, and I think that's the way it is. Of course, I argue to the contrary, Mike. I mean, when I left in 2007. We still had very low unemployment rates in the country. We still had high investment. We had our GDP was grew by 5% in my last year, or just short of it, 4.8, I think. And there was no liabilities from the state to the banks. And we had 21 billion in the national pension.
So would you blame Brian Cowan?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, what happened, Mike? I think two things happened. We had an international recession, a financial crisis that is the worst since 1929, and in our domestic economy, once the Lehman Brothers collapsed in September 2008, after I was gone, the recapitalisation of the bank showed that there was a huge hole.
But Bertie, let me ask you this now.
Yes.
What do you think? What do you think people's perception of you is now?
Well, listen, some people, understand what happened. They understand what happened internationally. Other people give out like hell. And mainly the issue is...
But do they give out like hell to you in public?
Oh, they do.
Like, are you meeting a lot of this antipathy?
Oh, yeah, at various times. You meet both. I mean, you meet people who thank you for your contribution, you meet people, but mainly it comes down to the banking crisis. And, if I can deal with that for a minute, Mike. I mean, the reality is this. There is a large element of the public who believe that we should have known that the banks were going to be recapitalised. In the end, it's 46 billion. It could be another 24 billion. It could be 70 billion. They said we must have known that.
Yeah, but they said you weren't watching the ball in the kind of parlance that you'd enjoy yourself.
No, I don't think. I mean, that's what happened.
But I'm only talking to you about the perception. Well, I tell you the perception of
Yes.
what people think, right? But you were the most popular politician of your generation, no question about that. People trusted you. You didn't prepare the country, people believe, for any stormy seas that we might encounter. You took your eye off the ball and you let the people underneath you take their eye off the ball. And you were able to sell the story abroad for your own personal gain. Do you know what I mean? So this is why people are angry with you.
Well, can I deal with the issues?
Of course.
We did provide for the rainy day. I mean, I was strongly criticised.
How did we provide for the rainy day?
By putting 1% of the whole GDP of the economy into the National Pension Reserve, 21 billion. It had never been done ever in the history of the country. We had the debt GDP ratio, which is everyone compares in every country, down to under 25%. We owed 44 billion.
Bertie, I'm sorry.
But the reality is, Mike, at that time, we were saving money for the rainy day. The debt was low. The amount of interest was being paid on taxation was the lowest it ever was, and probably lower than in any country.
Okay.
And yes, did we see, and this is where I accept the criticism, did we see, or did the central bank see, did the IMF see, did the World Bank see, did all the eminent people that were chairs of the boards, who weren't on my political parties, did any of them see that the banks were going to get caught into a position that would cost us in the short term 46 billion? The answer to that is no, we didn't.
Harry Truman said the buck stops here.
Yeah, and
you
I
were
accept
at the
that.
top.
I accept that.
You were at the top.
Yeah.
But I think people are saying Bertie does the justifications, he does the figures like you've done, and it's to justify himself, and that he's not actually saying, look it, I was to blame.
People should say, you should have seen it, you should have known it. The reality is, in the last budget I was involved in, there wasn't one line in that speech, not one line in that speech, of saying, we see that the bank needs to be recapitalised.
Okay,
maybe we should have, but we didn't.
Let's move on. Do you think now, back to when you were young, do you think, and with all of this raining down on you, which it is, and it must be making your life quite unpleasant,